That's when you know you're cross-recording. Oh, there we go. The recording is on. And, that'll be that's a perfect way to open the recording. So I don't think we have Karl tonight, and Jackie's going to be a moderator if she shows up. She's recovering from a little bit of surgery, but hopefully she's going to make it in here at some point, at least for a bit. We'll see how it goes. And we got our featured readers coming from away there tonight. So how's Kathy and David doing?
We're unmuted now, David.
We're unmuted.
No, we're not on. Yeah, we are.
Yeah, we're unmuted. Hello.
No comment.
Hi, we're fine. You got no comment.
Comment. But
No.
I have no opinion on the domestic affairs of another nation.
No.
No, it's just another town.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So did the rain pour down in Gibson's all day today?
Oh,
Like
my
it's
Still is. Vertical. Vertical.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The monsoons have arrived.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
And
did
there's. Oh,
I
Go
did
ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me? I did
Yeah.
a reading last night with Wordstorm, and we had quite a lot of people. I think we had about 25.
Oh.
And one guy read a Halloween poem that he wrote, and I kid you not, he held up a skull. I'm not sure if it was real or not, but boy, did it look real.
wow.
He used a skull to illustrate a human skull to illustrate his poem.
Yeah, that's that'll
I
get
thought
your
I was scary.
yeah, that'll get your attention.
I got no skulls, only my own.
I know.
Yeah.
We should have dressed up.
And we'll keep the skin on that one, David. Yeah. Mhm. So how are your manuscripts coming along, Kathy and David? On
We
track, are
are working steadily.
We're thinking about it a
There's
lot.
nothing like a deadline.
they? Yeah, Colton's waiting there, so you know, the end of the year is going to be here before you know it.
I know, I think about that. I thought October's nice because that seems like a long way off, but November I'll get nervous.
All right. Deadlines can have, one of two effects usually. Either they light the fire or they terrify people into being frozen and they can't do anything, right? So,
Oh no, I am so grateful for you for like immersing me now in the 1920s. I
Yeah.
never would have gone to another time if it hadn't been for you.
Beautiful. Awesome.
Well, I wasn't going to write a sequel to my children's book. I wasn't going to bother. I wrote a sort of an intermediate level children's book called The Story of Roger Hardfoot, and I published it a year or two ago, and it was like a Canadiana children's story. But in one of those writer's moments, I woke up one morning and the entire sequel was in my head. The whole story was there, and I spent 2 days and just sat and wrote 50 pages or typed 50 pages. And I called it Jebediah McLeod, about the old fur trapper in the story. And I just sent it to my illustrator in Qualicum. So I'm hoping I can get it out before Christmas.
Nice.
But you know that one of those writer's moments where you think it's not there and it just comes to you in a flash. It was incredible with a lot of detail too.
Yeah.
Much better now.
It was about 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. No, I've only had that experience once and it was wonderful. I saw the whole book in a flash and then it was just like taking dictation after that. I knew exactly where it was going and what was happening. It was easy, in some ways, the easiest thing I've ever written, But yeah, so they're huge gifts when they arrive, eh? Jennifer, what are you working on these days?
I'm as far as books go, I have more than enough for a full-size poetry book, and I've just sort of started trying to sound things out and see if anybody's interested in publishing it. Maybe somebody will. We'll see. As far as poetry is concerned, writing stuff, I finished Auschwitz Threnody. That was my latest big project, and so I'm just working on individual pieces of one sort or another. And what I'm doing tonight is one of the more recent ones.
Good.
So
Awesome.
we'll see. Hopefully there's a
Yeah.
publisher out there that has a soft spot in their heart or head. And
Oh, yeah. And you know, you're doing the right thing. I mean, you're getting your poems out in literary journals and stuff around. So when you can shop it around and say, and you know, some of these poems have already appeared, and then you'll list the journals, it always gets their attention. You'll get it read that way. And
yeah,
yeah, definitely
Fingers
deserves to
crossed.
be, it definitely deserves to be a book. There's no doubt about that.
thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah.
Hi, this is Char, and I don't mean to
Char.
interrupt, but we've got both our features are online now.
Oh.
Susan, may we welcome you, and may I ask you to unmute, and let's just give a listen.
Okay, is that okay?
Can you talk
Can you hear
a
me
little
all
bit?
right?
Where are you dialing in from tonight, Susan? Welcome.
Longview, Alberta.
Longview, Alberta. Wow, and you sound loud and clear. That's
Oh, good.
terrific. Terrific. Thank you. And Bill Arnott, our feature number 2. There's Van.
And Char.
Hi.
And hi, Derek and Susan
Hey,
and
Bill.
Jennifer. Hi, gang.
Hi.
Good
Bill,
to
Bill.
Yeah.
Good to see you.
Yeah,
see
so
you.
we've got everyone, Derek, everyone on the list so far, but we're still a few minutes away from starting. But you can hear us okay, eh, Bill?
Yes, thanks, Char.
Yeah, and Susan, so I invite you to join us in the rest of the chat before we begin. But
Okay.
and Derek, you have the list, do you?
I do indeed. You betcha.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
So,
We've got
yeah.
Derek, we have a few in-house, right? We have Joe Lunchbucket and Dean Lamont. They're here at
Uh-huh.
Char's to read. Yeah,
Awesome.
Good,
Yeah,
good.
great.
Okay,
And Joe's doing a 10-minute spotlight tonight, I believe, eh?
that is right. Joe
Is that
Lunchbucket,
correct?
10 minutes
All
tonight.
right.
Yeah,
All right.
looking
The
forward to it.
pressure's on. The pressure's on, Bob. Better get a glass of wine.
Good idea.
Yeah, speaking of which, yeah, I'm going to make sure he's got a big glass, and we're going to get him to do sound check at the front. Yeah, just
Excellent.
stand by.
Yeah. And Susan, can I ask where Longview, Alberta is? What part of the province is that in? Because I lived in Alberta for a while in the north, but I never came
Well, it's
across.
about 80 kilometers southwest of Calgary.
Okay.
So it's on Highway 22, just towards the Crow's Nest and Fernie down that way.
Oh, beautiful, beautiful. Yeah, foothills.
Although I'm
country.
only here till the end of the month. Then I'm
Oh,
moving to
okay.
Victoria.
Ah, lovely.
Yeah.
Come to the balmy climes for the worst part of the winter. That's a good idea.
Yeah. It'll be
Yeah.
balmy compared to here.
Definitely. Yeah. Have you had snow there yet?
A couple of just little bits, but nothing's, it's going to be like 16 or 18 on this weekend. So
Yeah. Good.
yeah.
Good. Awesome. All right. Well, we're really looking forward to hearing you read tonight. Are you going to sing in Flanders Fields for us by any chance, or we have to twist your arm?
No. I'm not, I'm going to blow everyone's minds by not reading something about war for a change.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
To mix it up. And what we usually do is, we'll have the featured reading. You can read
The light
for
is
15
fine. Does
minutes.
the speaker
Oh.
work?
Pardon me.
Sorry, Derek, to interrupt. We're Joe Lunchbucket's doing a sound check for us. Check, check.
Go ahead.
Can you hear him?
Testing. Can you everybody hear?
Talk to Derek. Say hi, Derek. Say hi,
Okay.
Derek.
Say hi to me there, Bob. Oh, don't go away, Bob.
Bob, go back to the mic, please, and speak to Derek. And we want to hear if they can hear us.
Oh.
Hi, Derek. This is Char doing sound check. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, it's a little bit lower than some of the other.
Yeah, I think I'm going to turn it up a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, just a notch or two wouldn't hurt. Hey, Victoria.
Hello, hi. How are
you
you all? Good to see you.
Doing good. We're in the
Yeah.
midst of a sound check here, so we'll have to chat afterwards.
How's
Okay.
that? Can you hear me a little bit better?
Can-
And welcome,
Yeah.
Victoria.
Yeah,
How's that,
that's
Derek?
Yeah, that's better. That's
Does it
up a
still
little
need
bit better.
more? Or when Bob stands up, if you could just let me know to turn it up like right away.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
where am I? I got to turn on the camera. Did I mention Carl's not here?
Yeah.
There's a lot going
I
on.
did. Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. And you're in the camera. Everything's good. Yeah, your volume was fine there, Char. So if you need to turn it up a bit with Bob, that's not a problem. All good. Okay. I'm going to switch my view so I can see everybody a little bit better. Get into gallery here. That's what we need. Okay. Now, Kelly Madden. I'm not seeing Kelly yet. No. Kelly Madden is an ex-student of mine from up in Courtney. Great poet. I was really tickled to see her name on the list. So she better show up or I'm going to call her up and give her heck, I guess.
Derek, have you seen her new book? Have you seen her book?
I have. I haven't got a copy yet, but I saw it when it came out online and sent her a little note congratulating her. Yeah, I'm gonna have to find out tonight where's best to buy it. Yeah.
Cool.
Have you seen it in person yet, or you?
Yeah. I just got one, and I'm tickled. And you've got a fine student there, as you know.
Yeah. She was one that stood out. You know, first poems that came in. I went, oh, okay. she's got the gift. Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, so super when you see them bringing books out afterwards and starting their careers, and she's going to go a long ways, I think. Yeah.
Agreed. And sorry, where was that you were instructing her in Courtney? Was that
That was at North Island College up there.
Thank you. Cool.
Yeah, a lot of good writers in the Comox Valley up there. It's it's a real for a small town, an amazing artistic hub. You know. One friend of mine who lived up there said he said the reason we moved here was because there was no real reason for the town to be here in terms of there was no mill, there was no no big anything. It was just a beautiful place with a nice, well, I guess they had a nice harbor there, but the ocean right there too. So yeah, it drew a lot of interesting people, and they have just a thriving art scene up there. Yeah, it's great.
Isn't that amazing how it attracts folks? When I popped into some bookstores, and I was amazed by the size of the shelves of the local authors. Great, prolific part of the island. Yeah, it's good. So your saga #2 came out, right? Yeah.
Yeah, good. How's that going?
The Gone Viking 2. It'll be on shelves next month.
Okay.
But I'm really excited with the advanced sales, and the buzz has been, flattering and humbling. And so thank you. I'm excited about it.
Awesome. Look forward to reading that one too.
Cheers.
Yes. So good. So are you doing any traveling these days, Bill, or are you just hanging close to Vancouver?
Kept it within the province was what we did. And that was a great opportunity this summer to explore some Gulf Islands as well as Vancouver Island. And took advantage of that. As soon as Dr. Henry said we were allowed to go between health regions, we were on one of those first boats. Yeah.
Go on.
And just loving it, and felt fortunate to avoid fires. And
we were lucky down on the coast for sure. Yeah. And those Gulf Islands are something special too. They're amazing. Yeah. Good. How are we doing for time? We'll give it a few more minutes here. Maybe Kelly will show up.
You're only 7 minutes to.
Oh,
got a little bit to go.
Yeah. Oh, and there's Bruce down there. Are you? Oh, and there's Jackie coming on board. She made it. Perfect. Bruce, can you hear me? If you can, please unmute. I need to talk to you. No, he's going to wait till the last second. There's Jackie. Hello, Jackie.
Evening.
How are you?
Carl.
How are you feeling?
Pretty good.
Good. Well, hope you can hang in through the whole evening, but hey, we'll understand if you need to duck out.
My best.
All good.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. And I'm just trying to get Bruce to answer here if he's around his computer.
Bruce Hornet?
Yeah, he's the only one I didn't have a bio for the anthology, and so I wrote him one. And I need to get his email because I sent him emails and nothing came back, so he must have changed his email or something. And I couldn't find his phone number anywhere, but it might come out the way I've written it in the anthology. We'll
Something
see.
wildly imaginative in there, really get people's attention. You know, he's a descendant of Louis the 16th.
Yeah.
And
Leaps buildings at a single bound.
His hobbies include skydiving and collecting rare first editions of Nancy Drew books.
There we go. Yeah, I think you should have written it.
Well, those will only go up in value.
Exactly. That's what I think. See, they're all right here. Yep.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, we put together a little anthology here in the Alberni Valley. It's a fundraiser for hospice, and so a lot of the local writers contributed, and a few from away as well. And it's getting really close to fruition here. We're taking pre-orders on it, and it's going to be coming out in the next few weeks, and we're quite excited about that. Yeah, it's been, I don't know, 8 months or so in production.
Bruce just unmuted and muted again. Oh. So Bruce, are you there? Hello.
There you are. Hello, Bruce.
Yeah, hi. We're just a little bit north of Corner Brook on Newfoundland. I'm not sure whether Wi-Fi will hold, so I'm just going to say a quick hi. Love you guys a whole bunch. I'll get a hold of you, Jackie, soon. And Derek, I did get your email. I'm a badass for not answering things. We're still, we're working an awful lot on my kids' projects. One in Ontario where we're going to live, and the other one in Newfoundland here. He started a bee farm. Anyway, wow. We're getting new material, I guess. Hi, everybody.
Okay, Bruce.
I'm just gonna watch tonight.
Oh, okay, no worries. That's great. Good to have you.
Lord, I feel right next door to BC compared to that.
Yeah, a bee farm in Newfoundland. There's got to be a novel in that. I don't know. It just strikes me.
And Joy is completely duded up. Look at that fabulous getup. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. She's gone in the Halloween groove.
That's great.
And I'm going to do a reading called The Scary Apple Witch.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Are you going to be reading tonight, Jackie?
You know, I'm just going to enjoy everybody else tonight. Just, yeah.
Yeah. I think I'm going to do the same thing. I was telling Jennifer earlier, I've been in negotiations all day about this property we're buying, and I haven't had a chance to even pull anything out to read for tonight. So I'm just going to chill and enjoy this evening as well.
Are you going to build a new house?
Well, it's a property that we want to build on. So
nice.
Yeah, just up Grandview Avenue, just off of Grandview there. Yeah,
I live on Grandview, but not that one.
There we go, a different one. Yeah, good places to live. Yeah, but yeah, it's kind of a view lot, and perfect spot to build our retirement home, I guess. And just like 2 minutes out of town, but you're on an acreage and it's quite private. So
that's lovely.
Yeah. So hopefully all will go well. We'll see. Yeah.
Lots of work ahead, though.
What's that?
You'll have lots of work ahead. Lots of
absolutely. Yeah. Well, just cleaning this house out and getting it sold, that'll be a big one. And then going from there to, site prep and construction. Yeah, it's huge. Yeah.
Well, good luck.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Anyway, I think we'll probably get started here. We're going into a different view. Char is saying, let's get this show on the road. So welcome everybody to Char's Landing, to the Electric Mermaid for our October edition. Delighted to see everybody here tonight, and welcome to Char, and thank you, Char, for hosting us, our Zoom host there, hostess with the mostest, who is along with Jackie doing double duty because we don't have Karl, our moderator, here to keep us in line. So I'm going to try and cover everything that Karl would usually cover too. Did you want to say something, Char?
Just wanted to say welcome, and we're ready to get started, and everything that you just said. So I'm glad Jacqueline's with us tonight for sure. I know it was a bit of an effort for you, so glad. I hope this is your happy place for tonight, and thank you in advance for introducing Derek for us. So have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks, Char.
Thanks.
All right, so let me then introduce our MC then for the evening. Thank you, Char. How great to see people online as well as on site, and it's a wonderful, another wonderful hybrid event. And I'd like to introduce our MC. Derek Hanebury, of course, is very familiar to a lot of people. He's contributed and edited and been part of big projects like the recent and successful Both Sides Now book of contributions with several other Valley writers. And he is also, he's a retired English and writing instructor from North Island College. So we're really thrilled always to have him as our MC. Welcome, Derek Hanebury.
Thank you, Jackie. Thank you so much. Okay. So, and thank you, Jackie and Char, for all you're doing, and for Micah, who's, I don't know if he's lurking in the background there or not anyway, or Micah Gardner, our resident photographer and artistic advisor. Always happy when he pops in, as he often does. So yeah, let me begin by saying we're in Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sishat and the Hepatcheseth First Nations. And we're very grateful to them for sharing their ancestral lands with us. And this is a difficult time, I think, that we're going through in terms of truth and reconciliation, and with the discoveries of the unmarked graves at so many residential schools. And I feel like I have to say something about that because it seems to come up wherever I look these days. And on one level, it saddens me, and on another level, it makes me hopeful and glad, because these things can't be just, you know, ignored and expect to be healed. So they need to be brought into the light, and things are definitely being brought into the light these days. So we're grateful that that's happening, and painful as the process is going to be, I do hold out hope that it's going to be a healing process, and we're going to arrive in a much better place in the long run. It's long overdue. So tonight we have two great featured readers coming to us, and we have Susan, who hails from Alberta, and Susan Raby-Dunn, I should say, and she's going to be sharing some of her work with us. She's a very accomplished writer about all things to do with war, but tonight she says she's going to deviate into some new territory, so we're looking forward to hearing that. And we've got our old friend Bill Arnott, and I think you should change your name to Bill Is So, because he is so cheerful and joyful, and always good to have him here, and his readings are always lively and uplifting. So looking forward to hearing you again tonight, Bill. Welcome. So let me remind you what we are here. We're just, you know, a collective of people that come together to share our work, and we like to welcome diversity and everyone at all levels of their writing. We welcome also all kinds of readers, listeners, I should say, who might want to come and listen. So we encourage you to invite your friends and others to come and join us here and be a part of the Electric Mermaid. you know, we encourage all kinds of sharings, whether that be musical or just lyrical or spoken word, whatever comes, we're welcome, as long as it doesn't stray into the area of hate speech or slagging people unnecessarily and viciously. We're happy, and so far we've been pretty lucky in that regard. People have been respectful, and that's great to see. So we're going to start off tonight. If I've covered everything. Oh, the other thing I should mention, for those of you who aren't in-house and have already probably dropped some money in the donation jar at Char's, Char could always use a little support, despite the allowance to have people back in her facility. It's still not near the thriving hub of artistic activity that it usually is. And so e-transfer at Char's Landing, if you can drop some money in there for her, it's always much appreciated, because she does so much for Electric Mermaid, obviously as our Zoom host, but also just for the arts in Port Alberni and beyond. So e-transfer at charslanding.com. And I'll mention also that we do have the chat, which I see I haven't even brought up yet tonight. If you want to just click on that down at the bottom, you'll see a little chat box pop up, and you can drag it off to the side of your screen. So there we go. So it's not in the way. And we put things in there like where to send donations, e-transfer at charslanding.com. And people are welcome to post in there where their books are available and things like that. And any comments you want to offer as the readings are going on. I know a lot of people like to just throw in the lines that they love when they hear them come out there, and it's nice to see them show up in the chat. So feel free to use that. And it can be saved at the end of the night if you want, by just clicking on the 3 dots to the right-hand side of the to line for the chat box. So Jackie, correct me if I've missed anything there, but I think we're about ready to get started. And we're going to open the evening with Joy Sheldon, the Wicked Witch of the Cowichan Valley, joining us from Duncan. And she's going to start us off with some Halloween poetry. So Joy, please unmute yourself and take it away.
I'm sure you'll all recognize my little introduction. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. Double, double, toil and trouble, something wicked this way comes. Eye of newt and toe of frog, wool of bat and tongue of dog, adder's fork and blind worm's sting, lizard's leg and owlet's wing. Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. And my reading tonight, of course, is going to be titled Halloween, and I'm going to tell you all about the scary apple witch. And unfortunately, I can't continue that witch voice for the whole reading, or I'll be hoarse as a frog. So here we go. The creme de la creme experience in the fall in Cowichan back in the 50s for me was, of course, Halloween. We'd stew for weeks over what costume to make this year. Usually a pirate, a farmer, or a cowgirl. Witches and ghosts were popular. The costume had to be manufactured from the materials at hand. A bed sheet or part thereof made a convenient ghost. Dad's work coveralls could double as farmer or logger. I don't remember what year it was, but I distinctly remember the circumstances. A Halloween party was held at Old Somino School on Herd Road. We attended, and they had a costume parade. Nearly everyone there, kids and adults alike, were wearing costumes. That night, I saw, bar none, the most humorous and effective costume I have ever seen. As he toddled along in the lineup of people, the ladies particularly laughed uproariously. He was middle-aged, hairy-chested, and fat, bald as a playground ball. He had a baby bottle stuck in his mouth, a blue ribbon bonnet on his head, and was wearing only one simple garment, a diaper. His wife must have custom made it to fit his adult and not very small bum. As he toddled along unsteadily, he made the appropriate gooing and gaga noises. He, of course, won the costume contest. Trick-or-treating at Halloween time was the highlight of our fall festivities. As soon as the slightest hint of dark appeared, we kids would head out. Of course, when we were really small, my dad would accompany us. After age 8 or 9, we'd hook up with a few of the neighborhood kids on the road. Then the delights began. We'd usually go to the faraway neighbors first. My dad always told us how far away we could range and approximately when he expected us back. Generally, my dad never gave us a curfew, but I remember that on Halloween night, we had to be back in by 9 o'clock or so. Otherwise, he would come looking for us, and Mother would further admonish us, do not go near that gravel pit at the big corner, especially you, dear, meaning me. Bad things can happen in there. We never knew exactly what the bad things were, but by high school, we kind of suspected. I never went into that gravel pit except once in the company of my brother to check it out. It didn't look too scary to me, except that it had a rounded but fairly flat bottom and bowl-shaped sides. I guess that anyone who got trapped in there could not easily get out. Usually as it was growing dark, we'd start at our house and proceed south. When we got to Myrtle and Cougar Smythe, we'd have to be on our toes. She'd open her door with her elderly husband, Old Cougar, behind her, silhouetted and usually with a big grin on his face. They'd demand a trick in exchange for the treat. Usually we'd sing a song or recite a poem. Once in a while, we'd even do a makeshift dance. Old Cougar was adamant that no kid would get a treat unless he did a performance. Onward down the road to the other 2 Smythe families and the teacher's house. They all made a point of being home so they could treat us kids. When finally we got to the crossing house, though, we'd start quaking in our shoes because it was time to face the scary apple witch. She lived on a small access road that jutted onto Somenos, just behind the big crossing house. To us little kids, she was real scary. We never knew if the outfit she wore was a costume or if she just always dressed in dark flowing garments. She had a long driveway that was black as pits and tree surrounded. We tried to take turns at year deciding which one had to be the first kid to run up her steps and rap on her door. Usually the kid who did the rapping stood well back as she opened up. Weird wails and noises emanated from within. We never knew what caused them, but oft fantasized that they were the moans of tortured kids. I can't remember exactly what she looks like, but it seems to me that she was short, bent, and supremely ugly. Wore a witch's hat. However, the reward was worth the scare because she always had the best, most luscious treat of all the neighbors, homemade caramel apples. I'll bet the apples came off her own tree. They were deliciously crisp and coated in rich golden caramel. We'd snatch our treat, thank her politely, then make a run for it. The caramel delights were so yummy that we'd have them eaten before they made it to our bags. Eventually, we would have ranged almost 2 miles from home. However, those scary forays for goodies on Halloween nights taught us lessons in imagination, in courage, and in generosity.
Thank you for that spooky start there, Joy.
I hope so.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, brings back lots of memories. When my kids were small, we had a place in Port Alberni called Howie's House of Horrors, and he used to go all out. He would bury one friend of his half, like up to his waist, in his lawn and have his body kind of laying there. And then as kids would go by, he'd come to and grab it. Oh, I mean, I'm sure he traumatized a lot of children, but it was good. It was worth it. Anyway, thanks for that energetic start. That's great. And I'm still looking for Kelly and I'm not seeing her. So I think we're going to have to ask Jennifer to jump in ahead there, if that's okay. You good with that, Jennifer? Beautiful. Okay. So Jennifer is coming to us from my old hometown, good old the Forest City, London, Ontario. She's an accomplished poet who comes pretty much every month and shares with us some of her work, and I'm sure you're going to enjoy it. So take it away, Jennifer.
Thank you, Derek. Lovely introduction. I am going to do one poem tonight. It's pretty recent. it and was just published in the Stratford Quarterly. It is it's my reconstruction and rendition of a true story that happened in England some time ago. As for stylistic inspiration, I don't know if it's detectable, but I did listen to a lot of Stan Rogers as I was working on this. It is called Hannah's Lament and is dedicated to Hannah Horsley, my great-great-great-grandmother. Norwich was my home, looming large in East Anglia, a different church every Sunday for you and a different pub every night. Third city in England, they say, with our castle and cathedral, but the twisted, narrow back streets are what I knew, with the river cutting through like a jagged blade. I was born in the year of our Lord, 1816. Dad was a gardener for those with money. Mum's hands were full with all of us kids. Poor St. Benedict's, our neighborhood, on the west side, just inside the old city wall, where everyone just tried to make their way, where the river wasn't far, always whispering a gentle siren call, but Mum kept us away. Oldest girl I was, and so Mum's helper, cleaning, cooking, looking out for the little ones. But I learned to read and write, proud of that I am, was nobody's fool, and so when I caught Thomas Horsley's eye, a coppersmith like his father John, well, I knew a good thing, I thought. We married, September 1837, the river just a sigh, a few streets over. To Higham we moved, just outside the old wall, 2 madhouses nearby, as poor as St. B's, yet near work and Thomas's folks, and what we could afford, but low-lying, damp and foggy the air, for the river slinking here and there through swamp and marsh was close. Our children started coming. I loved them all, but little Edward, oh, he was special, right until he fell ill and we lost him, just 3 years old. We are sorry, but God's will, they said. The others need you, they urged, young Harriet and little Tom. But I had trouble hearing through the pain and the crying of the river. Came 1846, Thomas's mum gave up the fight, all swollen and bedridden, and so John now alone. Money getting scarcer, the hungry 40s they called them, and they sure bit hard. Thomas, he kept at it when the work was there, but with one thing and another, the idea made sense. Move in with John, not far, nearer yet to the creeping flood. Another son, spitting image of our lost one, so we named him Edward as well. But the river flowed on. Thomas lost his job, started over as a bricklayer's laborer, while I kept the children fed and clothed in the shadow of the beckoning waters. Like a thief in the night it came, September 1854. John took sick, the cholera, they said. Terrible his suffering, his insides trying to get out. Nothing worked. He soon turned blue as the ocean, then was gone. 3 days later, and I'll never forget, I don't feel well, Mum, Edward moaned. And soon he was in bed listening to the river slip away. Typhus this time, they said, and soon he was burning up. Then the rash came. Weaker by the hour, didn't know where he was or anything else. Thomas and I stayed round the clock, but nothing worked. And soon my second Edward, like the first, was gone and heard only the hymn of the river. We are so sorry, they said, but now young Harriet and little Tom still need you. Thomas, he tried too, and I listened, but in the still of the night, I visited the river, and when the moon was right, a quarter full and growing, I could see my babies. We flowed onward a year and more to the spring when my first Edward would have been 14 and the day when my second was 8. I went down. I could feel them there, but the moonlight was yet a tad weak. 11 more days, June 8th, waxing quarter moon, fine early summer's evening, I slipped away along the familiar path, and there they were, my Edwards, in the summoning water, and when the nightingale rested, I could hear them call, asking for Mum. All else, any thought of future, of my poor Thomas or Harriet and Tom, faded into the gathering gloom, and I fell into the river's embrace, reaching out for my lost dear ones, borne down by the past and its struggles like an anchor. And when the moon is right and the air is quiet, if you can still find the spot and the river is willing, you just might see a mother and her sons locked in an eternal embrace. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Jennifer. That was transporting. Beautiful. Yeah, I just love the way the river wound through that and gathered power and persona and momentum and then took everything in the end. Beautiful.
Thank you.
Yeah, that had a Stan Rogers feel to it for sure.
Oh, good. Well,
Yeah.
that's fine.
Yeah, I remember Stan Rogers saying one time he had an old timer come up to him and say, he said, you know, you write about things or you sing about things I wouldn't dare talk about, he said. Yeah, that's where good writers go, right? You go into those places. Yeah,
That's
beautiful.
right.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so we're going to move into our featured readers now, and then have some more open micers afterwards. So, Susan Raby-Dunn, we're going to start with you. Women first, I guess. I don't know. You're further away. Yeah, you're an hour later in Alberta, so we got to get you to bed, right? So
Yeah.
Susan is in Longview, Alberta, and joining us by Zoom tonight. And let me just tell you a little bit about her. So she's a military historian, composer, veterans advocate, First and Second World War battlefield guide, author and editor, excuse me, of numerous books, including John McCrae, Beyond Flanders Fields, Morrison, The Long Lost Memoir of Canada's Artillery Commander in the Great War, and Hell Burned Through, The Art and Story of a Lancaster Rear Gunner. Fabulous titles, enticing. Her musical version of the poem In Flanders Fields debuted on CBC Radio and internationally in 2006. So she's a Canadian representative of the US-based charity Soldier's Heart. And after years of ranching and breeding horses, she now devotes herself to writing. And we're going to put in the chat there where her books can be found for those who might be interested in picking them up. So I want to welcome you heartily to the Electric Mermaid, Susan, and I understand you're going to veer away from the war writing tonight and give us something new. Okay, and then I have a question to ask you afterwards, but I'll leave that till then, and others will have a little time for Q&A. So if you think of anything you're interested in finding out, just you can drop it in the chat or wait till we open the mics up later. Go ahead, Susan.
Okay, I'm reading a little travel piece in more ways than one. It's called The Breath of Jaguars. We are breathing the breath of jaguars. I thought this as I lay in my mosquito-netted cot, listening to the cacophony outside my tambo in the Peruvian jungle. Insects, lizards, birds, monkeys, and when leaves fell, some were the size of dining tables as they crashed to the forest floor. It was 2 a.m., maybe 3. La Medicina was still very much with me. Sleep was impossible, but it was okay. I was content to just lay there and be part of it all. I'd sleep later. I'd come to the Amazon retreat for healing. There was no pressing need per se, just the usual anxiety I'd lived with since earliest memory. I learned to manage it. Only 2 weeks before, in a restaurant in Calgary, I'd noticed the surrounding racket escalate, clattering cutlery, 4 separate conversations, water pouring, chairs scraping, kitchen orders. Just as it became intolerable and I considered bolting out of my chair, I remembered, oh, it's just that, the old PTSD. I relaxed and continued eating. But I'd come to Peru in hopes of doing more than just managing it. I'd lived with post-traumatic stress disorder in varying degrees since age 4. During 20 weeks of group therapy in the 90s, I worked through deep layers of rage and grief. One milestone was the realization that 2 traumas I'd suffered at age 4, 2 events that had set my course for more deadly misfortunes, were no one's fault. That was liberating because I'd spent years looking to lay blame. One was a burst appendix that almost killed me. Left too long, by the time it was addressed, half my gangrenous stomach and intestines had to be removed along with it. The other was molestation by a neighbor's 15-year-old foster son. Those two early wounds specifically were what I hoped to heal. Traumas at that age are not understood. There's no processing, no insight, no healing. They become hardwired, part of who you are. I'd pondered taking ayahuasca, the hallucinogenic healing jungle tea, for almost 20 years. I first heard of it on CBC's Tapestry program. Anthropologist Jeremy Narby, author of The Cosmic Serpent, described how it worked. As a sort of interior, intensely personal guided tour. Some would see spirit inside everything, sometimes right down to their own DNA. It was said ayahuasca could actually create new brain pathways. In other words, rewire you. Narby took Indigenous Canadian teenagers to the Amazon to heal their addictions. Ayahuasca stopped some of them cold from substances that would surely have killed them. It was like what they saw and experienced eliminated their need to self-medicate. It took me 20 years to get there because of the terror associated with 2 bad LSD trips in my youth. During one, I escaped a fatal beating by a hair's breadth. Still, I kept thinking about ayahuasca. I needed a shortcut, something to circumvent old conditioning and get the job done. A friend's grandson went to this ayahuasca healing place in Peru. He was from Ontario, and I'd met him briefly on occasion while visiting his Alberta relatives. Last time I'd seen him before Peru, I thought, wow, that guy's low. He's carrying an awful weight. He returned from Peru and his transformation was remarkable. Looking like a radiant Buddha, he described his experience at the retreat. It was almost all I needed, a credible firsthand account. Later, I discovered that Jeremy Narby himself goes to this same place, as well as physician healer Gabor Mate. Check and check. Just before Peru, I had a big dream. I've had larger than life animal dreams since childhood. I was in a jungle in front of a pond. A tiger swam in the water, only his enormous head was visible. In front of the pond between us was a jaguar. We 3 were allies. I awoke excited. Wow, I thought, that has to be a good omen as I embark on this daunting quest. During our first of 7 ayahuasca ceremonies, the dream became significant. At 6 o'clock, we pasajeros, which is Spanish for travelers, entered the Maloca, a round, screened, elevated pavilion with a high thatched roof. It was already dark. We had individual mats placed around the circle. In the center were mats for the Shipibo shamans, 3 women and 2 men, plus Deb and Ben, the facilitators. At 7:30, the shamans entered and sat on their mats. Glasses were set out for the ayahuasca, small, medium, and large. Still nervous, I knew it would be a small serving for me. Plastic pop bottles sat to one side, filled with brownish liquid. The shamans smoked mapacho, a ceremonial tobacco, and conferred with each other. Facilitator Deb smudged repeatedly with mapacho, as I've seen First Nations people do with sage and sweetgrass. The Maloca was ringed inside with lanterns. At 8 o'clock, Deb got up and spoke to one of the pasajeros just down from me. So began the process. One at a time, people got up and knelt before the maestra with her bottles of brown liquid. The facilitators sat facing each other at right angles to this maestra. They spoke to each pasajero in turn. My turn came. How are you doing? I'm scared. Don't be, you're safe here. What size would you like? Small, please. The maestra, Elena, poured a tiny glass, about 5 ounces of the brown sludgy brew. I gulped it down. Not too terrible. Just like some sort of exotic jungle chocolate, right? Said Deb. Would you like mapacho? Asked Ben. Yes, please. He gave me 3 mapacho cigarettes, large, unfiltered, roll your owns. I quit smoking in 1992, but I smoked the mapacho. First I smudged, but as the evening progressed, I'd have a few puffs and found it offered much needed grounding. Many Amazon healers use only mapacho for healing. It's considered sacred and almost as important as ayahuasca. After we'd all drank, the shamans drank. Then Ty, a young apprentice and our precious door guy, took all the lanterns away, leaving us in almost total blackness. I lay back on my mat. Within half an hour, La Medicina took effect. It began with a surge of electrical energy that set all my nerves tingling. Frightened, I kept reminding myself, these Shipibos' lives have revolved around ayahuasca and its properties for 1,000 years. I'm in good hands. Soon beautiful marble temples spanned out before me in rich metallic purples and blues with jewel-encrusted pillars. Giant anacondas, tan with big brown spots, wound themselves through the temple and around the pillars. With eyes closed or open, it made no difference. A mesmerizing pageant filled my field of vision. The Shipibo called the spirit of the tea Mother Ayahuasca, and many people report seeing her during ceremonies. I watched for her. Then fear overtook me. I flashed my headlamp red for Ty. He escorted me out the door, down some stairs behind the Maloka to the washrooms. I sat inside by lamplight and thought, I can't do this. Shades of that last terrifying LSD experience, even though that was over 40 years ago. Then I said aloud, trust. These shamans know what they're doing. Anyway, you're stuck in this, whether you like it or not. I went back up the stairs and Ty led me back to my mat. I had a few puffs of mapacho, a sip of water, laid back down and prepared for whatever was to come next. What happened next, I still marvel at. Those two cats from my dream, the tiger and the jaguar, appeared. They laid down on either side of me. I saw them, felt their breath, heard that rumbling purr they make. I felt their presence as keenly as the pasajeros on either side of me. The cats were my protectors, and I was overcome with gratitude for them and everything that had brought me to here. Now we waited for the Icaros, sacred Shipibo songs integral to the ayahuasca ceremony. Songs the shamans say are taught to them by the plant spirits themselves. The shamans sang an Icaro to each person in turn. One after another, they sat cross-legged in front of me. I sat up close to take it all in. It is said they see a lit up grid over each person showing where things are out of balance and tailor the Icaro accordingly. The songs were ethereal, almost unbearably beautiful. They went right into my soul. All fear vanished once the singing began. I watched a procession of images with calm detachment. I saw myself die in World War II, validating a specific lifelong preoccupation. Current life reviews are also not uncommon. Another indigenous name for ayahuasca translates as the little death. A life as a Mongol warrior came into view. Then with my knees up, I began to shake so badly I had to stretch my legs out flat. With that, like a match to a line of gunpowder, all my meridians burst into flame from my toes to my head, which exploded in a fluorescent green-lit circuit board. Let the rewiring begin. The ceremony finished after midnight. Most pasajeros returned to their tambos. Some stayed and slept in the Maloka. I joined a small group in the dining room for tea and fruit, also grounding. We smoked mapacho and compared notes. We laughed at our interpretations of what the noisy frogs in the pond alongside the Maloka were saying. After an hour or so, we returned to our tambos for the night. I followed the winding path to my hut by headlamp, accompanied by the reassuring presence of my two big cats. So here I was in my tambo, a small thatched roof hut on stilts, like a super healthy green smoothie where you can almost feel the vitamins go down. Breathing the jungle air reminded me of that. It had this supercharged, nourishing quality to it. And I felt a subtle change, something in the wiring. In the early morning hours after the 6th ceremony, I finally saw her. Still feeling La Medicina, I'd been watching an endlessly morphing kaleidoscope. Suddenly, Mother Ayahuasca appeared right in front of me. I gasped aloud. Just her beautiful round face and green eyes were visible, like Medusa, only instead of snakes, vines with green leaves snaked and swayed from her head. Oh, there you are, I whispered. She evaporated. A talk by David Suzuki emerged from memory. He had explained how the element the gas argon is indestructible and recycles over and over indefinitely. Argon that Jesus and Joan of Arc breathed, we have breathed. But not just humans, all creatures and plant life who respire. And yes, here in the Peruvian Amazon jungle, we breathe the breath of jaguars.
Wow, beautiful. That was mesmerizing. Thank you, thank you. Yeah, that's, I want that book. Where do we get it? So yeah, I watched a show with an anthropologist years ago who went down and he did ayahuasca with a whole village, and the entire village took part in it. And by the end of the program, he was completely reborn. I mean, you could see that just looking in his eyes that he was not the person who started. He was just at such a place of peace. So yeah, wow, what an experience. So overall, you're glad you did it, I guess, eh?
Oh yeah, I'm glad I did it. I need to do some more. I just scratched the surface of things I need to, but I felt like the very early childhood things were solved by that.
Fabulous, fabulous.
Yeah.
Well, you really brought us in there with you. I could picture everything and feel it as we were going along. So I'm going to open it up. If anybody's got any questions they'd like to ask Susan, please just unmute yourself and ask away or throw something in the chat. And I'm also going to mention that you're appearing with Jackie, I believe, on November the 9th on Zoom. Is that correct? At 6:30 Pacific time. She sent me a little note in the chat here. Yeah, I think it's to everybody.
Well,
yes.
Where is she? I am.
We'll be doing.
Well, I'm in the middle. I'm in the middle of moving. I just sold my house, and I have to be out of my house by the 29th of October. So it's absolute madness. I'm forgetting things. And anyway, sure, why not?
Yeah, we set it up a while ago. I think I sent you a note, an updating note about it, Susan. But I know you're focused on your move, so don't worry about it. After you get moved, we'll revisit it again. So I'm really excited. It'll be women writers reading pieces about war. So it's all good.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, it's coming back.
Okay.
It's all coming back.
Bill, did you have a question there?
Please, Susan, Bill here.
Hi.
A fascinating story, as just echoing what Derek said. Please say that word again, the Spanish word for travelers. That one captured my...
Pasajeros. It's P-A-S-S-A, J-E-R-O-S. Pasajeros.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that's what they call, people that are traveling on ayahuasca, right? Yeah.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah. Jennifer, did you have a question there? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. I've been interested in military history, to go to something you didn't read about, sorry, for quite a while. And Margaret Millen aside, there aren't all that many military historians, or at least there haven't been in my sort of generation anyway. So how did you come to have an interest?
Well, it started with John McCrae, really. I was just with a friend today that said, how did I choose that subject? Well, it chose me. I mean, I'm quite open to otherworldly influences, and the numbers of things that kind of funneled me towards John McCrae were kind of obvious, and I really had no choice. So that's where it started. And then from him, I learned about World War I through his experience. And he was badly shell-shocked. And it really, it ended up getting me involved with being an advocate for veterans, trying to get support for war trauma and stuff like that. But it was really John McCrae just kind of, I don't know, I saw the NFB documentary, but a bunch of other stuff happened. And pretty soon I was just headlong into about 7 full years of research. And I'm still learning about him. So it's just a fascinating character.
Cool.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Anyone else have a question they'd like to pose there? No. All right. Well, maybe we'll let you off the hot seat there. Oh, we have another one.
Yeah,
Is that Jackie?
Yeah, so Susan, do you, among your books, I think most of them are like about war, but do you have like a one of your travel stories, or you know, where we could find this story, things, or is that on your website? Noted your website.
The thing I just read is not published anyplace, but I did write my first book was actually a motorcycle memoir, because I've been riding motorcycles for 40 plus years, and I was told I kind of cheated people because I alluded to some of these traumatic things that happened to me without going into any detail. So I'm working on a more in-depth memoir, but I would really like to use the title of that first one. I hope I can. It's called Rest Your Head on the Wind.
Oh, that sounds great. Rest your head on the wind. Okay, we'll look for the old one and the new one too.
Yeah, the old one is, but anyway, my first book.
Sweet. All right. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Last call for questions. And yeah, here and none. I guess we're going to move along then. Thank you so much for sharing that reading, Susan. It was really, really enjoyable, inspiring, and great talking to you. I hope you can hang around and enjoy the rest of the Electric Mermaid tonight. We usually wind it up by 8 o'clock our time, which is like 9 o'clock your time, so it won't be too late. But we'll understand if you have to get packing. Moving is no easy feat. Anyway, thanks again. Okay, and we're going to move on to our second feature then, and that is Bill Is So, and Bill Arnott is joining us from Vancouver tonight. Fabulous poet and writer of prose as well, and I don't know what you're going to read from. Is it from your new collection from the Viking book? Yes, okay.
Yes, that's right.
All right, so I'm just going to see if there's anything else I need to say about it. He's a best-selling author of suspense thrillers, the Gamble novellas, as well as a book of poetry, Forever Cast in Endless Time. Award-winning memoir, Gone Viking, a travel saga, was followed up with Gone Viking 2, Beyond Boundaries. He's also written Bill Arnott's Beat, Road Stories, and Writer's Tips. Yeah, that's what you reminded me when you first came on and read that poem. This guy's a beat poet. Yeah, beautiful. So he was granted a fellowship at London's Royal Geographical Society, which must have been very interesting. Maybe you'd tell us a bit about that later. Sure. So I'll turn it over to you, Bill. Take it away.
Eric, thank you very much. And I'll just wanted to say first off, Jackie, thank you for this lovely invite and inclusion, and Char for making this all possible. And Derek, I love it when you host. I would gladly listen to you narrate anything. If you ever just sort of want to record bedtime readings, I will be your first customer. It's absolutely a pleasure to the ears. And first off, Joy, a great share, and Jennifer, gorgeous writing. You know, I'm a huge fan of your stuff. And Susan, what a privilege to read alongside of you. As I said, a fascinating a tale, a story, and experiences you're sharing there. And we're glad that you're coming over to BC now. We'll see if we can convince Jennifer down the road, and we'll just load up this left side of the country with all of this talent. So there it is. Derek's fishing us in there. I will, in the chat stream, I will just and Jackie, thank you for the spelling of pasajeros, the travelers. I'm going to speak a little bit about facets of that. I'll just hit in the chat stream there, contact info with my email and links to these Gone Viking travel logs, travel sagas. So tonight I wanted to speak a little bit about I'm going to read from this second book, Gone Viking 2, Beyond Boundaries. So I'm here in Vancouver. This is Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh land. And so the notion, if you're unfamiliar with my first book, this Gone Viking, a travel saga, I'm playing off the fact that Viking was originally a verb with a small v. And outside of Scandinavia, people tended to label those voyagers using that Viking as a noun, but it was first used by those people, basically pasajeros in their way, but the notion of to go a Viking or to go Viking voyaging, exploring new lands, emigrating, looking for arable lands, tending to come from a thriving, populous countries. And as we all know so well, and Derek, you spoke to it very eloquently earlier, every nation has a dark history. So it was easy to paint these Vikings with perhaps a dark side, but at the end of the day, more often than not, these Scandinavian nations were emigrating and looking for new places to settle and trade. These were artisans and boat builders and farmers. So I spent the better part of 8 years trekking around the Northern Hemisphere in the footsteps of these Viking voyagers. So I write of it in these nonfiction travel memoirs. And I may as well just jump right into things, but as I read to you from this sequel, Gone Viking 2, Beyond Boundaries, just to sort of tie it together, I start this second book with the epilogue to the first book. So I'll catch you up with the epilogue to Gone Viking, a travel saga, kicks off the sequel, and it goes like this. Back home, following 8 years of travel, exploration, and research, 8 years of Viking or voyaging the Northern Hemisphere in the wake of some of the world's most adventurous explorers. I was enjoying the Vancouver view, water, mountains, the bustle of tugs, tankers, and helijets, all plying sea and sky. Hillside homes reflected sun in bursts of fiery gold, and beyond the bay, where inlet sprawls into ocean, bulkers glowed in morning light. Moored sailboats pinged a rhythmic and nautical tintinnabulation, a toe-tapping score, as a solitary freighter slid west beneath the big green bridge, bound for who knows where, maybe Avalon. Over the pole, Icelandic horses were changing color with the season, akin to amber leaves now littering the city. And I thought of a sign that resonated on Haida, hidden in forest. Do not look back, it read. There is much more to see, feel, and love. While a bench in a park near our home is embossed with a plaque that states, if you're gonna look back, laugh. Speaking to that Haida reference, I made a point of sitting in front of this. This is a Robert Bateman painting, but it's of that Bill Reed canoe called the Lutas that's up in Haida. And many of you will know Bill Reed. He also did that wonderful cedar carving that's at the UBC's Museum of Anthropology, Raven and the First Men. So this Lutas canoe from Haida was a bit of a recurring character in my Gone Viking travel logs and travel memoirs, because I found some fascinating links between many of our indigenous nations with respect to seafaring artisans, not unlike Scandinavians or Polynesians and Micronesians and Melanesians. Oral traditions were often conveyed not only in totems and rune lines, but in tattoos. These people were inked up, sharing pride of place and story, and these were thriving, healthy, advanced cultures. So that to me was a very natural tie-in with facets of small v Viking. And of course, a natural bridge there around the Pacific. Many of you will know of Thor Heyerdahl. I consider him a 20th century Viking when he sailed his Kon-Tiki balsa raft across the Pacific. So I leverage off that in this second Gone Viking travelogue, and basically just going beyond that Northern Hemisphere that we associate with traditional Scandinavian voyagers. So I'll keep reading from Gone Viking 2. And I'll hit you with the introduction that just comes after a couple of maps. It goes like this. I was coming up for air following the release of Gone Viking, a travel saga, delighted and humbled by the connections with new friends and readers around the world. And while that odyssey took me across half the planet, the explorer in me, unsurprisingly, remained unsated. Much of that journey's appeal were those moments of mystery akin to the original Scandinavian sagas, when there wasn't always a conclusion. No answer, solution, nor even a clearly marked finish line. Those dreamy expanses where horizon and cloud commingle in misty swirls. You convince yourself where you are is real, and beyond that, perhaps, lies the magic that fuels everything. Meanwhile, tangible, imagined, physical, emotional, geographical, and spiritual boundaries remain, at times by our own making, other times imposed upon us. While Gone Viking, a travel saga, embraced the adventure, playfulness, and discovery inherent in travel, it remained, I believe, within acceptable parameters. Now I've gone Viking again, a series of voyages toward the unknown, only this time I'm setting rule books aside. We'll play fair, make no mistake, just not necessarily within guidelines. And I welcome you. There's always room for another adventurous wanderer, another Viking. But this time, our destination lies elsewhere. This adventure was unlike any I've experienced, the result of travel restrictions. Yet through it all, the world opening anew, a depth and breadth of connectivity that simply wasn't there before pandemic was our norm. This may also be the most ambitious expedition I've undertaken. As a recently appointed fellow of the Royal Geographical Society, I felt an obligation to do justice to what every traveler craves, the experiences we pursue, exploration no longer being merely shuttling one's husk between locales, accumulating passport stamps, but mental, emotional, and tactile transport between places, times, and sensory touchstones, occasionally glimpsing just what it is we're doing here. Gone Viking 2 takes place over a number of years before, during, and after the voyages of Gone Viking, a travel saga. What preceded the first epic trek, what else occurred at that time, and what followed. All of this reflecting a changing world in which travel restrictions became our new normal. Invariably, these wanderings, recording the world around us, emerge as scribbles in journals, our present-day version of scribes putting quill ink to vellum. Once more, I've done the same with a weatherproof pack and blank notebooks. Once again, I've gone Viking, only now it's a journey beyond boundaries. Now, Derek, while we're visiting, if it's convenient for you, thanks, Jackie, a bit of clapping, to do a screen share. I got a half a dozen photos I could share that might prompt a little visiting. If it's inconvenient, I will just carry on with my reading. What's simplest, please?
I'm good with it as long as Char can enable it, because she's the Zoom host here. So Char, if you're able to turn the screen share on, I'd love to see the pics.
I'm showing that.
Bill, you should be able to share.
Well, all right.
I haven't done anything. It's open for one guest.
Of course. Sorry, Char.
Okay,
I see it there now.
Yeah, okay.
So what I'll do is I'll pull it up on screen. And Derek, please stay tuned in to me there, and we'll see if it's clear. I'm going to go in there. Oh, host disabled participant screen sharing. Okay, we're going to try that again. And so I'm going there now. Do you see that Gone Viking? Perfect. Okay, thanks, Char. So I won't. I don't mean to bore you with these. I'll share a couple of things. This would be the part of the presentation where I boast a bit. Along with Jackie, we were privileged to be part of the listers for nonfiction at the Whistler Independent Book Awards, and this Gone Viking, this first book, a travel saga, got a couple of other literary awards and was named very best book award for nonfiction this year by the Miramichi Reader. And there's just a fun graphic for this sequel, Gone Viking 2 Beyond Boundaries. So I'm just going to skip ahead and give you a feel for some of the things that I speak to in this second travel memoir. Specifically, flying into New Zealand, some of you may know the Maori name is Aotearoa, which means land of the long white cloud. So I just felt this was lovely and apropos as we're descending into New Zealand. Well, son of a gun, it really is the land of a long white cloud there. And here is a little island called Lord Howe off the east coast of Australia. It's not far from Norfolk and Pitcairn, where the Bounty was destroyed. And it's a small atoll, and you can see this tiny patch of flat land. They have to put a little airstrip at an angle. They say the Dash 8, we were on a twin prop there, needs a kilometer, 1,000 meters to land. And this little strip is 900 meters. So the pilot has to determine the direction of the wind and fly hard into the wind to make that work. And so feeling adventurous. There I am setting off into some jungle in New Zealand there. And although my wife and I are comfy going there, there's no cougars or bears like around here in BC. So it feels mildly adventurous without too much risk. This is a popular spot for tourists called Cathedral Grove in New Zealand. Many of you might know that. They love this shot in travel magazines and whatnot. Here's a special place that's called Shark Bay. It's on the west coast of Australia, monkey Maya. And these are wild bottlenose dolphins. And on occasion, they'll come in and socialize with humans. And you go to the beach and you hope they show up. And if they do, you've got this lovely aquarium experience in the wild. And this time they had a calf with them, a baby dolphin. And it really coursed almost electric through the water. Here's a boardwalk through some mangroves, kind of a cool experience. And kayaking to some waterfalls. This is Harubu Falls, also in New Zealand on the Watangi River. And here's the south tip of New Zealand. So I was really pushing the envelope with that Tor Heyerdahl Pacific, sort of circle Pacific approach. And really beyond that horizon there, it's Antarctica. And this is where most expeditions would go from New Zealand to the research base in Antarctica, not quite as, like more so than South Africa or South America. Here's one of those shots. We just aimed the camera up and got this single shot. We felt we could have spent a lifetime trying to capture a gannet in front of the sun. So that was just a lovely serendipitous moment. And then we carried on into Asia and camped north of Beijing at the Great Wall there. You recognize that. And this I thought was timely. There's, you recognize Sydney Opera House. This is that replica of the HMS Bounty, as in, Captain Bligh and Fletcher Christian, that just recently sunk in a storm. So felt fortunate to see it at sea. It was circumnavigating the globe at that time. And a Hawaiian waterfall as we're making our way back home, all in the footsteps a little bit of Captain Cook there, just off the Big Island. And sunset seems like a fitting sort of conclusion to that. And then one more bit of what would call product placement there. And I think that's enough of our photos for now. So I thank you for listening. And it's been a genuine pleasure and privilege. And if anyone wants to share, ask a question, I'm game.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Thanks, Bill. God, you just reminded me how much I'm missing traveling. Oh, man.
How do you put your hand?
I have a.
Yeah.
David, you've got a question there?
Well, I was interested in the word Viking and to go a Viking because when I read Seamus Heaney, the poet, in a couple of these poems, he uses the word Vic, V-I-K, and he refers to looking out on a boisterous day from the cliffs, where here on West Coast BC, we might say, oh, look at the Chuck today. It's lively out on the Chuck. And he talks about the glitter of the Vic. And of course, Ireland, it had a King of Dublin, King of Orkney, King of York, Eric Bloodaxe. I mean, it was the Vikings were in Ireland. And at least according to Seamus Heaney, that word Vic, it seems to refer to that sea, that choppy sea with the sun on it. So I don't know, I'm going to have to Google it, but I haven't yet.
Well, now I want to, David, but I did manage to sneak a little Seamus Heaney into this second Gone Viking book. So there's a perfect bridge there, yeah, with some of the Irish travels. Kudos.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense, out on the Vic, out in the chop. Yeah, so we don't say we go chopping, but,
And his part of the world there, they've got a dozen different names for the different islands, the way wherever you are, there's a dozen different words for rain in Scotland and so on and so forth. So I can see with the chop, good visual.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Awesome.
I just wanted to show you guys this in the course of organizing my, my move. This book went missing for quite a while, and I just found it this morning. I'm like, yes, there's Blood of the Vikings. Anyway.
Can you hold that up again, Susan? Can you hold that up again?
My last name.
Oh.
My last name, Raby, is actually an old Viking name.
Yeah,
and all the words that end in by, like Thorsby, Grimsby, Battensby, those are all Viking names. Anyway, it sounds really interesting. That looked like a fantastic trip. So,
but good share. So you got Viking blood for sure in you.
Well, I think so.
Brilliant.
My mother-in-law has a Norwegian in their ancestry, and so she's always talking about Norwegian Pikerfellers. She's got some pretty hilarious poetry around that, but it's a little bit I won't share it here. But yeah, unique, definitely unique. All right. Any other comments or questions there for Bill?
Well, I just want to ask, are these two books, they're nonfiction travelogue, memoir sort of things, right?
Yeah. My personal experiences over a number of years following these voyagers in personally going to these sites around the globe where they raided, traded, settled. So nonfiction personal travel memoir.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Some adventure, some history, and some humor.
Yeah.
Always got to be a little humor if Bill's involved. I know there's always that twinkle in his eye, you know, he's going to slide something in. That's good. Okay. All right. Are we good then? We're going to move along. Looks like, okay. So thank you so much for that, Bill. Really, really enjoyable. That was just like, I feel like I just armchair traveled around the world. Love it. Thank you.
Thank you, Derek. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay. All right, so we're going to go back to in-house at Char's now. We've got Dean Lamont, who I haven't seen you, Dean, for a long, long time. So I'm really glad you came out. Dean's a local Port Alberni writer. He's a retired teacher, a landscape artist, and writes these hilarious stories about Ned, which just happens to be close to Dean backwards. Not that they're autobiographical, but I think they are. But anyway, Dean's with us here at Char's Landing, and he's gonna come up, and I can't wait to hear what he's gonna share with us tonight. It's always entertaining. We've even done a few songs together in the past. There are Stan Rogers numbers, as I recall. We'll have to do that again one of these days. How are you, Dean?
Thanks very much, Derek. Always the perfect host. This one is not about Ned, but it's about Thanksgiving. It is called Turkeyed Out, or Institutionalized Insanity. After Thanksgiving, we hear people say, oh, that turkey was great. But let's for a change look at things from the turkey's point of view. Immediately, most people will plug their ears and say, we don't want to hear about it. Under the Taliban now, women are the property and slaves of their husbands in Afghanistan. In the Deep South 100 years ago, it was acceptable for whites to say, I'm glad the Klan is dealing with those uppity niggers. It is likewise acceptable in our so-called developed world to turn a blind eye to the routine abuse of food animals. It's only a turkey, people say, but put that turkey in your backyard for a few weeks and presto, it becomes a pet. Okay, all you so-called animal lovers out there, take this knife and go stab that turkey or wring its neck, pull out its feathers, take its skin off. Oh no, you animal lovers, want to order your turkeys online. Pick them up wrapped in a nice cellophane package, stuff them and pop them in your ovens. Years ago, I was lucky enough to see a commercial turkey farm in Richmond up close. Lucky, I say, because now the turkey farmers hide what they're doing inside windowless metal barns. They do not want the public to see the slaves in the galleys. Unlike battery hens, turkeys are raised on cement floors, packed in by the thousands into huge sheds. If an unknown visitor, like Ned, comes by, they all start gobbling and crowding into the far end of the floor, sometimes walking on top of each other. Walking, for today's turkeys, is more like waddling. Bred for maximum weight and huge breasts, they look like watermelons toddling on chopsticks. They urinate, defecate on the cement floor, which is hosed down periodically. The dead and injured birds are removed for disposal. As Leonard Cohen once said, and is often heard, everybody knows that the deal is rotten. So now you know how rotten the deal is for commercial turkeys. They suffer for a year or more in abysmal conditions, so you can rave for a few days about how great that turkey was. Some of you compassionate souls out there might be beginning to wonder about just how rotten the turkey's deal really is if you look under the tablecloth. If we want to be thankful this time of year, why do we have to do it over the carcass of a dead bird, raised in conditions worse than slavery? So please, don't tell me how great that turkey tasted. We now realize the suffering endured by residential school children, the suffering endured by Afghan women. How long will it be for us to acknowledge the suffering endured by factory farmed animals, such as turkeys? That turkey may have tasted great, but if you think about it, you may not want to eat it. For the turkeys, the deal was rotten. You were eating for the turkeys. No, sorry. Don't wimpishly bow to familial and social pressures. As Mahatma Gandhi said, be the change you would like to see. So, all you animal lovers out there, try to find the balls or the tits to quit eating factory farmed animals, including turkeys. And if someone asks, you don't eat turkey? You can answer, no, I don't eat turkey. Why should some poor factory farmed turkey suffer for a whole year so I can eat turkey for a day or two? It's inhumane. Abuse is abuse, whether it's residential school children, Afghan women, or turkeys. You don't eat turkey may someday sound as archaic as you don't have slaves. People don't realize that birds are the sole living descendants of dinosaurs. With a brain not much bigger than a marble, the average bird is as intelligent as the average dog. Would you eat your dog? Thank you.
Thank you, Dean. Good to have you back again. Always thought-provoking and entertaining at the same time. Thank you, thank you. And our next reader is going to be local in-house as well. And this is one of our 10-minute Zoom spotlights that we have here at the Electric Mermaid for regulars. So if any of you other regulars would like to have a Zoom spotlight and do a 10-minute stint, please let Karl know next time you sign up. So I'm going to introduce Bob Franco now, also known as Joe Lunchbucket, our local curmudgeon, who's going to share with us some of his poetry, I'm guessing. Bob, are we on to poetry tonight?
No, it's another cruise ship tale.
Okay, the cruise ship tale with the interesting characters sharing their thoughts. All right, take it away, Bob.
Cruise ships, heated topic and hot tub. Is celibacy feasible? Escalated to atheist believer challenge. Opposing sides promise to be Christ-like and suffer fools gladly, throwing each other to the lions. Naysayer atheists would speak at nay mic and believers at a mic in the movie room. Nay mic. If God created man in her image, were we able to talk, or are evolutionists right saying we never developed speech until thousands of years later? Do viruses top our food chain? Can our biblical apologists explain? Hey, Mike, if man didn't have faith, would we have built monuments to immortality so that all would come and we progress to the stars, leaving chimps with only 2% DNA difference behind? Nay, in Genesis chapter 1, God creates light on first day and the sun on the fourth day. Do we tolerate glaring errors like that in the union labor contract agreements? Should we expect even higher standards from the Holy Book? A, did reincarnation proponents start hospitals and leper colonies? Do we feed the hungry, or do they await the next reincarnation's reward? Nay, do others' creation tales, creation fables, flood and virgin birth tales differ? Was Creator perfect? Is homosexuality the luck of the genetic draw? Does clergy's paradise promise to cannon fodder differ from suicide bombers' 70 virgin reward? A, barbarian man had to be threatened with afterlife punishment to stop constant warfare. Nay, I agree, but now that we have law and order, do we need religion's health threat? Will prayer or technology avert asteroids? And can we colonize space before our sun burns out? A, religion also brought medicine and knowledge to Aboriginals. Even Socialist Putin reinstated Orthodox Church in workers' paradise. Nay, did missionaries think they were saving souls but unknowingly were colonizers? Is church state best mind control tool to date? And do theocracies that deprive half of the population from top positions doom their nation to dark ages? A, should we treat religion like global warming and err on the side of caution to avoid hellfire? Nay, we can question papal infallibility, Creator's mistakes, and if survival is the luck of the draw, because heresy is no longer a death sentence. A, yes, but offending the prophet and burning his book still is. Nay, if we never had religion pounded into us, would we demand evidence and try to reason it out? If religion wasn't waning, would Port Alberni, Char's Landing still be a church today? A, who's our brother's keeper? Are there many atheists manning the homeless breadline? Like evolution's adapt or die, many of today's churches marry gays. We survive. Okay, that's, I don't know if I still got some time, I'll read you another ditty. Okay.
Should be good, Bob. Go ahead.
A saintly atheist cared for her dying husband after 15 years away, when even his mother and siblings thought him a mangy stray. Left on dole to raise 5 kids alone, yet she took him back in. Do mortals exhibit divinity in pardoning unforgivable sin? Do the scales demand balance, or is vengeance outweighed by love? Is 70 times 7 forgiveness demanded of us to enter heaven above? For bloody exploits and adultery, why wasn't King David stoned? Was his task on earth incomplete and penalty was postponed? In the song Amazing Grace, a man for many a years was a slave trader. Was he saved by grace to become an ardent abolitionist years later? Jamie Braggart's fought forgave him when he confessed he sinned, but when caught in transgression again, did pardon they rescind? Do we revolt to unshackle our chains from a power-mad dictator, or suffer and patiently await afterlife justice from our Creator? Did survival of fittest or compassion get us to top of food chain. Does civilization advance only if playing field is a level plane? Or must there be more givers than takers for humanity to gain? Okay, that's about it.
All righty, thank you, Bob. Lots to chew on in there. As always, thank you very much, man. Okay, we've got, is it Kathy or David's going next? Kathleen Vance is going to go next from Gibson's.
All right, I
And
think I'm unmuted. Yes.
you're
all right.
unmuted. You're
Okay.
unmuted.
All right, try this jump, Billy shouted as he leaped between the hay bales piled across the loft of the barn. An owl high up in the rafters hooted and screeched in surprise. How about this? Mars called back as she jumped from high up on the pile to a soft landing in the loose hay below. Anne, who wasn't sure she could jump from so high, saw where the bales had made a tunnel. There's a mine. I'm going to look for gold, Anne shouted and started crawling into the tunnel. She crawled on her hands and knees between the bales, further and further until she came to a fork in the tunnel. Which way should I go to find gold, left or right? Anne wondered. Then she thought of Billy and knew what he would say if he were there. You already have the answer, Anne. You said left or right. Or right, get it? Anne smiled and headed right. She crawled further into the dark tunnel until she suddenly saw two beady eyes. They were all lit up and they were staring right at her. Anne froze. The pair of eyes froze. Anne wasn't going to turn her back on whatever animal had those eyes, but she knew she had to get out of there. Then her hands and knees caught up with her brain, and Anne started crawling backwards as fast as she could, so fast that she didn't even notice she had crawled right out of that tunnel. Suddenly she heard someone shout, "Stop right there, look where you're going, kid." Anne froze and turned around, and there was nothing but a big drop to the farmyard below. And the farmer, who looked very, very tiny, was shouting up at her. Anne rolled away from the edge and saw that the two big loft doors were open to the yard below. "You get out of that barn right now before you break your neck," the farmer yelled. Anne raced into the tunnel and took a right turn to get back to Mars and Billy, but she couldn't find them anywhere. Suddenly the loose hay started moving, and Anne thought of those staring eyes and of the animal that owned them, and she screamed. But it was Mars and Billy who jumped out of the hay. Hey, Anne, get it? Did you find any gold or not? Get it?" Billy said. "The farmer says to get out of his barn," Anne told them. "Good idea," said Mars. "I saw a lot of field mice. That barn owl should be eating them," Billy said. "Let's go see if Jake and Bob have got that old jalopy working." Billy's friends, Jake and Bob, were leaning over the motor, their father's old car. Their father was the farmer, and he had junked that old car a long time ago, but he let the boys play with it, trying to get it running again. Billy, Anne, and Mars watched the two boys working on the car until the boys finally noticed them. "What are the girls doing here?" Jake complained. "I'm supposed to take care of them," Billy explained. "Oh, yeah? Don't believe that. We're watching over him," Mars told them. "They don't know nothing, Mars," Anne said, pointing to Jake and Bob. "They know something, Anne, just not as much as me. I've been watching them. I used to help my dad fix old classic cars in our garage at home. My dad called me his grease monkey. We used to take our cars to car shows." Suddenly Mars saw something and went over and whispered into Billy's ear. "Hey, Jake, Bob, an idea just came to me," Billy said. Mars gave Billy her angry look, but Billy kept talking. "Try this," he said as he showed them what to do. And that jalopy started running. Come on, Ann Mars, jump on the running boards. We'll pull you in over the door, Billy shouted to them. Leave them, Bob said. But Billy said, no, they're coming. I'm sorry. I should have said it was Mars's idea how to get this old jalopy running. Come on, Rover boys, let's go. Clear across the country. Yeah, come on, Rover girls, Ann shouted to Mars. And that jalopy, that one time, made it clear across the farmer's field before it sputtered to a stop. The end.
Beautiful. Thank you, Kathy. Love that in the hayloft. That was sweet. All right, next reader is David Kipling, and yeah, he's stepping into the spotlight there. And what are you going to read for us tonight, David? A story?
Well, yeah. I have another couple. You know, most of my stuff is about Rachel and Tarek, but I have this other couple who are a bit junior, Mickey and Shirley. So we'll see how it goes.
Sounds good.
Oh, hang on, Mickey. Can you get a melon too? Shirley yelled out of the kitchen window as Mickey Ferris was buckling on his helmet and kick-starting his Yamaha. He muttered, yes, 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 over his shoulder and hurtled from the backyard in a blue haze. Patel's produce was only a 4-block walk, but Mickey was not about to miss the start of the Barcelona Motorcycle Grand Prix, having set up his favorite TV chair and drawn the curtains and set the recorder up. At Patel's, Mickey found the particular tomatoes that Shirley wanted. Field tomatoes, mind, she had warned him, not that hothouse rubbish. Then he paused in dismay in front of the trays of fruit. Good morning to you, young Mickey. How are things with you today? Patel, stepping from behind his counter. Mickey fluttered his hands over the melons. Mr. Patel, I'm supposed to buy a melon, but there's different ones here. What should I get? Anuj brushed his white smock, straightened his tie, and strolled over. Very good question, young man. 3 kinds we have. Now, do you know, for instance, that if you see a box of melon marked Bailan melon, they were actually honeydew, grown in China. Chinese people call it Bailan melon. Bailan capturing big market this year. But is honeydew, same thing, sweet, sweet taste, lovely melon, the honeydew. Mickey was shaking his head. Yes, but what should I get? What does Shirley usually buy? Anuj spread his hands. Well, your wife, who can tell what a woman might want from day to day? Just joking. All Patel's melons are very good. You cannot go wrong with any melon from Patel. Import direct from Iran, reliable supply chain, no hanky-panky, best melons and best price in all of Accrington. Even in Manchester, you don't get a better price for melon. Don't take my word, ask your good lady wife. Mickey shuffled his boots impatiently on the concrete floor. Shirley just said melon, Mr. Patel, just melon. What should I get? Only I'm in a hurry. What had Shirley called out? The labels here said honeydew and cantaloupe and watermelon. Mickey had caught only the word melon as he wrote out. Mr. Patel hefted a fat watermelon and slapped its stripy rind. Picnic, is it for a picnic? Anuj gestured outside to the sunlit sidewalk. Tomorrow even hotter than today, weatherman said. Watermelon is good for a picnic, perfect for any outside gathering. Thirsty people make missy drips on ground. That picnic doesn't matter. Hey, try a slice from the fridge to test. No? Lovely melon, the watermelon. Anuj Patel had adapted his speech to match England's TV shows and their stereotyped shopkeepers' ethnic banter. When he had first opened the store and conversed in the manner of the engineer he had been in Uttar Pradesh, customers from these modest working-class streets had kept a cautious distance. When Mickey had once pointed to the circle and spikes medallion mounted next to the Patel's business license and had asked, pineapple? Mr. Patel has whispered, no, it is a symbol, registered emblem of Lucknow Electrical Institute. Now Mickey shook his head over the display of melons. No picnic, it's for tea today. We're having sandwiches, so this must be for after the sandwiches. It's indoors because I have to watch a race and it's starting very soon, Mr. Patel. What should I buy? Mickey explained urgently that this single race might give the whole championship to Valentino Rossi. Mr. Patel, Valentino is starting on row 3 of the grid, so I can't miss the start. Anush seized another melon and held it up. Okay, the honeydew then. See, whitey, yellowy, nice smooth skin on a honeydew. Mickey stared. I don't think we ate the rind, Mr. Patel, just the inside part. Basma Patel swept into the store from the back room in a flurry of bangles and scarves and tugged Anuj out of the way. Silly boy, Mickey, cantaloupe. She buys cantaloupe, your Shirley. Don't you eat cantaloupe on Sundays? I don't know. We have a melon, that's all. Basma's hands flew into the air. Oh my God, two stupid men I have. One buys from me, one lives with me. Look, cantaloupe, here, see? Rough green, outside skin. That's what Shirley buys. Mickey held out his shopping bag helplessly. Please give me one of those then, and the tomatoes. I have to go, Mrs. Patel. As Mickey straddled and fired up his Yamaha, Mr. Patel hurried out, pointed to the stuttering engine, and murmured, no offense, Mickey, but it sounds like your ignition timing is too advanced. No good for around town. Back it off a couple of degrees sometime, and patted his shoulder. You're not a racer, young man. Mickey rode fast towards home, swerving his motorcycle off Empire Street and into the back lane, the lumpy cloth bag bumping against his ribs. Back gate, quick, quick, open, damn it, open. That's right, Shirley, I got it. Is the TV still on? And he dropped the bag of melon and tomatoes in the sink as he ran through the kitchen. Simultaneously, their two cries echoed through the house. What's this? Cried Mickey from the front room. Monty Python? What's this? Cried Shirley from the kitchen. I have a melon. I said get a lemon.
Beautiful. Thank you, David. That was good. Very good. Love that ending. And I love Mrs. Patel. She's awesome. Excellent. Thank you. All right. Looks like we're coming on to our last reader for the night. So, and Victoria, you're on Zoom with us tonight, not live at the Char's Landing. So Victoria is a local Port Alberni writer, poet of at least one book under your belt. Yeah. Also a contributor to the Alberni anthology, as are Kathy and David. So the one I was mentioning earlier that's going to be coming out in the next month. So, and actually we're going to have readers from that anthology in November. So I've got to get a hold of everybody and get people lined up, but we're going to do a little promotion for it and see if we can't generate some sales to help the hospice here in town, and hopefully let people enjoy some good local reading as well. So welcome, Victoria, and what are you going to share with us tonight? I know you do some prose sometimes as well, but what have you got for us?
They are prose, and I've not written very much this year. This year has been a very difficult year, but North by Northwest has been prompting me to actually get down to writing again, because they have a contest for a mug. I'm not going into it for the mug, but it's making me write on the topics they put out each week. And yeah, they've actually read 2 of mine already. I only started 2 weeks ago. So far they've read each one. And it's very encouraging, and it gives me a deadline, which I needed. And it gives me some, an inspiration to start. So maybe I'll continue after all of this. But one of their titles was Your Most Cozy Place That You Remember. So this is a most cozy place. My most beautiful memory of a cozy place was my grandmother's kitchen at the farmhouse. There was always a fire burning in the grate whenever there was inclement weather. There were chairs around the fire, even a rocking chair that I loved. It was coziest most of all when on a cold winter's day, after taking my horse out for a ride, I would return to the farm totally frozen, my hands and feet being the most frozen of all. Grandma would sit me down by the fire, pull down the iron grate that kept the ashes in, telling me to put my stocking feet on it. It was gloriously warm, and my feet soon thawed out. She would bring me hot, strong tea and a large slice of homemade bread with butter melting on the top. Sometimes she had made potato cakes, swimming in butter. So delicious. I soon warmed up, feeling cozy, warm, and loved. Grandmother and I would sit looking into the fire and see how many shapes of animals we could see in the embers. Other times, she would read the leaves in my teacup, just for fun. I am now the age of my grandmother, and I often yearn to be able to walk into her kitchen on days when body and spirit need to feel cozy, warmed, and loved. This one.
Thank you for that. Have you got another one there, Victoria? Or...
Another one, yes.
Oh,
Yep.
good, good. I'll shut up then.
The next one is Lost and Found. A brass plaque hung on the wall in my childhood home. The plaque, 11 inches by 8 inches, had an embossed image of a lady sitting on the rocking chair. A poem was also embossed beneath the entitled Mother. As a young child, I always loved reading this poem. The memory of the plaque and the poignant poem became more meaningful to me as the years passed. In 1961, my mother died young at the age of 49, a victim of cancer. I was 16. For major reasons, I was unable to remain in my family home, and I had to go to live with my eldest sister and her husband in a different country. Returning for a visit 2 years later, I discovered that the brass plaque I had held in my mind was no longer there. It had been removed along with many of the brass items. It was not known of its destination. For years and years, I hunted in antique stores, charity shops, and garage sales in the hope of finding the same brass plaque. In 2009, when visiting my home village in Cheshire, England, where I grew up, I went to a huge garage sale, a fundraiser for the elementary school I had attended. It was held in a large field with hundreds of tables. I spent hours looking for treasures with my sister, who was also a garage sale enthusiast. Then, at the very last table, I noticed a pile of picture frames, and other items stacked underneath the table. I moved them around with my foot, and a corner of a brass something shone out. I bent to pull it out and could hardly believe it. It was the plaque. This could be the one that hung on the wall in my home. It was in the right neighborhood, and it certainly looked like it had lived through many years. The plaque now hangs on my living room wall in Port Alberni, Canada. Unbelievable. The yearning in my heart to find this plaque again was realized 49 years since I last saw it. The poem reads, Mother. It is a wonderful thing, a mother. Other folks can love you, but only your mother understands. She works for you, looks after you, loves you, forgives you anything you may do, and understands you. And then the only painful thing she ever does is to die and leave you. And that was written by Baroness Von, that's French. I don't think I'm correct, pronouncing it correctly, but yeah, that was quite something to find that plaque. It was, yeah, I was so excited. So now it's here. And I do have one short one if I have a minute. Do I have 1 minute?
Absolutely, go ahead. You bet. We've got time.
My very good friend had a birthday, but also she told me she had a bear that seemed to be taking up residence in her garden. And anyway, I just wrote this. It's called Bear in the Stars of Moonshine. She lives by the river. Stars swimming in the moonshine like golden sprinkles on a dark chocolate cake. A bear hunting to fill his round tummy before dawn throws himself deep into the river like a sack of stones, unashamedly disturbing the quiet of the stars in moonshine. So that's all.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow. So I have to ask, the plaque, was that 49 years after your mother had passed that you found the plaque?
Wait a second. It's, but yeah, yes, 49 years after mother had passed away. Right.
And your mother passed at the age of 49?
Wait a minute. She passed at 49. What did I? I'm so bad at remembering dates. What did I actually write? Let me see. It's right here. Okay. Yeah, then, yeah, 49 years since I last saw it. So,
Yeah, interesting.
yeah, yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Just, I don't count my years. Oh, that's interesting how those numbers, you sometimes you think they're behind the scenes engineering things. So, they're aware of your desires being that strong. They're going to guide you into those places where finally you're going to find that thing.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
So,
Anyway,
but
great
yes,
story.
it was amazing. And I'm sure it is the same one because it has to be. It's in the same place. It was amazing that it was a fundraiser for the school I went to as a child, my elementary school.
Wow.
Yeah, beautiful.
Yeah, there are no coincidences, I don't believe, but anyway, lots of synchronicities.
And it was, I mean, we were there for hours, so I've never seen so many tables. England is very, very crowded. I mean, there were probably about 3 of the farmers' fields full of the cars that were attending this garage sale. And then this whole field full, absolutely. I mean, they call them boot sales. It's not actually a garage sale, but I changed the name so that we Canadians who speak a different language know that it's a garage sale.
You must have been over the moon when you found it anyway. I can't imagine. It must
The
have
very last table, and people were just, packing up, and I went there to that table, and they said, oh, everything's sort of, cut down on price-wise. So I just found that under the table. Couldn't believe it.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us, Victoria. All of it. That was great. And thanks to everybody who read tonight. I really, I think we had an amazing range of stuff, and I found all of it quite fascinating. So kudos to all of you for coming out, and especially to our featured readers, of course. Yes, big hand for Susan and for Bill for those extended readings and the Q&As after were really, really enlightening. So keep writing, everybody, and hopefully come back and join us again next month here at the Electric Mermaid. And I want to say before we go, big shout out and big thank you to Char at Char's Landing for being our Zoom host and moderator and everything else. And thanks to Jackie, even though she had to go early, she wasn't feeling well, but she hung in there for the good first hour, I think, with us. So that was great to have her here. Thank you to Micah in absentia and to Karl in absentia, who will probably be back next month doing our moderating and taking care of things. So just a reminder, e-transfer at charslanding.com. If you're feeling generous, you could always use the help. I don't have to say safe travels to anybody online here, but to you folks there at Char's Landing, thanks for coming down and reading. And for those who came just to listen, like William, where is he hiding there? It's too small for me to see, but he's there. And yeah, great to have everybody joining us tonight. Just the perfect antidote for me for the crazy day I've had to be able to do this. It's been ideal. So take care, everyone. We'll probably hang around and chat if anybody feels like it. And stay safe, be well, God bless, and good night, y'all.
Thank you.
And thank you very much, Derek. What a lovely evening. And you pretty much had to man everything tonight. So congratulations, you do it seamlessly.
It's all you're doing, Char. I just say the word and you make it happen.
Well, it's teamwork. So, and our next one is Friday, November 19th, the 3rd Friday of the month. And Jacqueline is not with us, so I'm not sure who our features are. But if anyone is interested in featuring or being a LUMA feature, please email electricmermaidreads@gmail.com or go to charslanding.com. The event is there and we'd love to host you. And thank you for all your time and sharing your gifted words. It's been a lovely evening.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Kudos to everyone and good night. Good night. See you, Bill. Bye, Kev. Good night. See you, Jennifer. Take good care. All right.